Hey, what's up studs? Ryan here, or MandRproductions, with a much requested LEGO Star Wars comparison video between Imperial Landing Crafts. These are notably seen in Episode 4 and more so shown in Star Wars Rebels. That's where I would say they would probably be more known from. They just get a lot more screen time in that compared to Episode 4, but they are seen briefly in Episode 4, at least one is. LEGO has released two separate sets in 2007 and again in 2018, so we're going to be taking a look at the differences between those sets. Set number 7659 on the left here with some general info. Included 5 minifigs there, 4 Stormtroopers, 2 of which should have an orange pauldron, but I have just lost the other one a time, so what are you going to do? And also a TIE pilot. The set, when released in 2007, as a January 2007 set, cost just $50. Adjusted for inflation, that's about $62, so not too bad with 471 pieces. On the right, from the summer of 2018, we have set number 75221, which when released cost $90, and adjusted for inflation, that's about $92, so not much of an increase yet on that. Your 5 minifigs with Obi-Wan Kenobi, R2-D2, an Imperial Landing Craft pilot, and a couple of Sandtroopers. And this set clocked in with 636 pieces, so about a 200-piece increase over that period of time, along with that $40 price increase. Anyway, as usual with these M&R comparison videos, we'll go through my proprietary way of comparing sets with minifigures, playability, design, also including accuracy, because some people are like, hey, you need to compare these to the movies. Well, we'll do that in the design category. And we have value and M&R opinion, all leading to the final score. So let's get started with those figures. So the 2007 set provided just 5 figures here, and I actually like the range of figures we get here. We do get a TIE pilot minifigure who may not be the best and most fitting character to actually pilot the vehicle. I think what they have in 2018, what we'll see, is a much better option, but it can go either way, I guess. The Stormtroopers themselves are really nice. They do have the black heads, as you get with Stormtroopers from the early days, but they generally look good enough. I will say also they have like the black mouthpiece, which is not as detailed as like all future Stormtroopers. 2007 was the last year that they used the black for the little mouthpiece or whatever, and after that they had much more detailed printing for that specific area. So the figure's definitely outdated, but the actual selection of figures, I really like that you got 4 Stormtroopers and a TIE pilot. I think that that just fits really well for an Imperial set, because I'm someone who's very much in the line of thinking that if it's an Imperial set, it should have Imperial figures, and with the 2018 model, we don't quite see that. 2018 gave us a wider range of characters with Obi-Wan, R2-D2, the Imperial Shuttle pilot, and then 2 Sandtroopers, and I think that this, to me, is not my ideal personal figure selection. Now, one case you can obviously make is that the figures are obviously much more well done compared to the 2007 set, right? Like, you definitely have better updated figures. It's been 11 years. It's obvious that the figures are and should be better in a lot of ways. I just think that the selection of figures isn't as great, and more importantly, I think where LEGO could have maybe squashed this and made the figure selection in this set great was including 2 more Stormtroopers. Have 4 Stormtroopers, which will, as you'll see as we go along, be enough to fill every seat inside of the landing craft instead of having 2 empty seats. And no, there was not a battle pack available at the time to fill this out with more Sandtroopers. That just doesn't exist. But the figures were nice enough, and I will say the updated figure selection is probably the better one, as much as I prefer getting more Imperial characters, or in general, and it doesn't have to be Imperial, but obviously for kids, it gives you the ability to create a story in some type of skirmish between Obi-Wan and R2-D2, taking on the might of the Imperial Landing Craft. I think I have to give the nod to the 2018 version as far as the minifigures go. They're just better, and you get a wider range of characters, although I really like that you just get Stormtroopers in the other one. There's just something charming about that to me. Playability is undoubtedly a category where you're going to see some major differences in these sets, because the way they were fundamentally designed is so much different that they kind of had to work in different play features based on what they had going for them. And obviously times change over the years, and with this set, you know, stud shooters weren't around, so you don't see any of that, but there are some different things that you find on the set. So for starters, you can do things like take your pilot minifigure, pop him in the cockpit space, which is rather spacious, I will say. I actually really like how much space there is for him to sit in there, and close that up. If you want to call that playability, you can. If you don't, you don't, but that is a thing that's there for you. There is also the ability to pick up the ship and swoosh it around. I will say you really don't want to grab it by the fin here. You're really going to want to grab it on the bottom here, and that's something that this set kind of suffers with for playability, because kids, and myself having been a kid when I owned this set, will learn the hard way that you can't just pick the set up like this and expect to have a good time, because it will literally fall, because there's not like a strong Technic connection. It's only connected by the 5 or 6 studs, and that's not enough to support the weight. So it's kind of unfortunate that that's the case, but it is. You also have the ability to lower the wings into like flight mode, and this is something that can be easily done with the knob on the back here, and they drop right on down. And when they are down, they look quite nice. It goes very well with the flight mode feature, I will say. I think that works nicely. Again, holding it like this is a dangerous game, but when you hold it like this, or maybe at the back here when you do have them down, it's a lot easier. It can be a much more fun time to play with this one. So definitely has some positive aspects there, with one big negative aspect being the weakness of the design for that. So we'll close this up. Another thing you can do, obviously, is going to be opening up these things here. You can open it up, access the interior while the ship is together like this, but this set does have what I would call a killer feature as the landing craft. Up underneath the model, you'll find some very large red Technic pieces, both on the front and the back, and these basically hold on to the bottom section of the landing craft. And if you pull these off like so, watch me unclip it, and the one on the back as well unclipped, you can pull away the top section of the landing craft, so that whole thing comes off. Having removed the top section, you get a rather spacious interior. I will say there are actually supposed to be a couple of chairs here. Those have also been lost to time, much like the pauldron of my minifigure. You'll notice the jumper plates, and those are actually to store weapons on, so you can place weapons on them for all 4 of your Stormtroopers, actually, because there are 4 jumper plates within the set. You have some bombs that can be dropped out of the landing craft as you're flying, or you can drop them as you're sitting here. They have these red knobs on the backside that you're just going to drop like this, and they will drop right out. It's a nice little funnel there. I will say there's a negative aspect to this, because they do sit loosely in here as you're flying the landing craft around. If you were to turn the ship a little bit too much, or it gets too turbulent, they will kind of pop out of place, and then you have to find them in here, and yeah, that's a whole ordeal every time that happens. So that's unfortunate to have happen, but that is still a neat feature. And then perhaps one of the coolest features that I loved as a kid was this right here. And you could have your Stormtrooper just kind of standing back here, and there is just barely enough room for him in there to fit his big helmet in. Not as big as the newer helmets, but you have one of the giant spring-loaded shooters there. And not only could you just pull simply on that to make it fire, it actually had a system where if you were flying it and you had the top on and everything, you can actually just push in on this green bit here, and it pushes, obviously, this whole lever thing back, and it's going to push this black bit back. So you could just fire it off as you had the set flying around. And we'll put a little Stormtrooper there. Here we go. Just like that. I mean, it is pretty powerful. I always loved these cannon things as a kid, and I think they really hold up to today. They're probably still my favorite shooting function that LEGO has created. Just really neat and really large pieces. But that's pretty much all the playability this set has to offer. Let's take a look and see what the 2018 version has to offer. The 2018 model has playability that's a lot more streamlined, in my opinion. You find things like stud shooters on the side of the cockpit of which can open up, and you're going to be able to put a minifigure in there just like we could on the former version. Placing the figure in there, in my opinion, is even easier than what you get in the 2007 version, because it's just a tiled bottom there with the piece that does kind of hold the figure in place, and we'll close that up like that, and he's in there. He's not going anywhere. Pretty great design for that. And again, stud shooter on the other. I guess this is not a bad time to say that you cannot pick this setup like you can the other one, because this one will break. Okay, that is a minor difference. I don't know if that really factors into the playability, because this one has a really great feature in that aspect, but there you go. There's the other stud shooter on the side. Now, getting the wings into flight mode is actually, in my opinion, easier than it is on the 2007 set, because all you have to do is grab them and pull them down like that, and it's simple, right? Like, you can't beat simple. So I like that, and it's a good, well-working mechanism, and picking it up is even easier than the 2007 one, because this is kind of Technic integrated here, so it's built with, Technic into it, and then you don't really have to worry about it breaking like the 2007 one, and then your whole ship goes crashing down. So this one, you can do anything with this, and it is great. Very strong, great swooshability in that way, and you can also grab it from the back here, even easier than the 2007 one, again, because you don't have that whole rod assembly there down at the bottom. You can just hold it there. So definitely some positives here for the like I said, I'm used to grabbing it like that because that's how I would grab the 2007 one. But so all the panels on the side, just like the 2007 version, can flip up, and you'll find that the interior on this one is a little bit messier, in my opinion. It doesn't really present very nicely compared to what you see in the 2007 version. And the reason these wells are so large is to fit the Stormtroopers in there with their full backpack assembly, so you can actually get them down on the studs if you want them to go nowhere. So just like that, you do have your figures able to sit in there. And part of the reason I think it should include 4 Stormtroopers is because there is 1, 2, and if we close this and take a look on the other side, you'll see 3 and 4 spots for Stormtroopers. However, you don't have the characters to fill out that space. So that type of thing always disappoints me when you have sets like this. So the interior space looks less clean to me. It's a little bit messier, but it does have one feature that I really like, and you can't drop it off like you can with the other landing craft, unfortunately, so you can't just drop this whole thing on the ground. But you do have the ability to pull this on down, and then you're going to be able to pull it this piece in here, and it's going to drop out an entire like landing pad so that you can actually have your characters walk in and out of the shuttle there. So that was a really neat mechanism that they added into the 2018 version that obviously wasn't present on the 2007 version. So while I find the missile launching feature and the ability to basically drop the belly out of the 2007 landing craft to be really appealing, like I think those are great features, I think the ease of use for the wings, as well as the ability to fly this ship around really easily without it breaking in your hands, is definitely positive. I think that the 2018 one is kind of going to edge out that 07 version just barely as far as the playability goes, and I think maybe some of that can also be attributed to imaginative play as far as having figure selection where you have people from both sides. That definitely can go into that decision for me here as well. So just barely I'm going to give it to the 2018 version, but I honestly don't feel good about it because I really like that feature with the giant missiles and as well as the ability to just leave the entire section behind as essentially like a command post. Really neat, but 2018 just gonna get the nod. I almost feel like I shouldn't even have to talk about the design category. The 2018 version is far more accurate and more well built. You can see that it has the much larger underbelly, and I think the shaping of the underbelly is also much more accurate. I think they just really killed it on the newer model as far as getting the details down. Much of the design aspects that I like about this set are also kind of the playability things that I said I liked about this set. The wings being easier to drop down, the fin in the middle just being a lot stronger connected to the body of the ship. Maybe the negative design to this is that these kind of break off very easily and the interior is kind of lacking, and you know, that's something you can look at aesthetically when you open it up, but functionally it kind of serves the same purpose, right? It holds your troops. I think the newer set's cockpit is also far superior, and maybe something that kind of goes underlooked is something that I think LEGO definitely tries to get down in a lot of these sets, and that's kind of a combination of tiled pieces and studded pieces, and I think it really shows on the newer model that they really went for this look, because they could have easily tiled a lot of this stuff off and made it a really clean model, but they kind of mix it in there, and sometimes I like that, sometimes I don't. And I think this 2018 Imperial Landing Craft is definitely a case of one of the times when I did like it, and there are some areas on this set where they really should have probably tiled it off, like right in here, because otherwise it all gets really dusty in there. You can see a little bit of dirt still in there as best I try to clean it. It just, you know, over the years doesn't hold up so well. So definitely going to give the nod to the 2018 version as far as the design goes, both accuracy-wise and as far as like the stability of the builds and everything. Even the landing gear is better on this newer model, just by a mile. So much cleaner design on the newer set, so I must give it the nod. Unfortunately, nostalgia goggles aside, 2018 definitely better as far as design goes. So which set is the better value? Well, if you guys remember, the 2007 model cost $50 upon release, which is about $62 in today's money, versus the 2018 model, which costs $90 on release, which is about $92 in today's money in 2020. So with that in mind, it's a $30 difference, and to me, it would totally be worth going for the cheaper alternative here. You're getting a lesser quality build and lesser quality minifigures and everything, but for $30 more, I think that it may be worth it to go with the cheaper alternative. I really do. I think that's a pretty large price increase for something that, you know, maybe more like a $20 price increase in my opinion as far as the quality of the set goes. I don't know. You can spitball all day with it, but to me the value for $50 versus $90 upon release, and obviously a $30 difference given inflation, is definitely not there to me on this newer model. As much as I like it, I think that the 2007 version presented a better value. I think what could have swung that for me is what I've kind of talked about a few times times throughout this comparison is including more Stormtroopers. Only 2 Stormtroopers with 4 seats is disappointing. And I can say that I really do think that that would have swung the decision here, but unfortunately it's not the case, and 2007 gonna get the value nod. And that brings us to the M&R opinion category. Not that most of this video isn't my opinion anyway, but deal with it. Which set do I think is better? I have a lot of nostalgia for 2007. It was a great year for LEGO Star Wars. This set is a great looking set. Obviously, it hasn't aged perfectly. It has some defects, like a lot more gray than it probably should have. The new one definitely fixed a lot of that. It also had some shortcomings as far as the strength of the build, as you've seen throughout the review. It did have some really positive aspects to it too, though, with the minifigure selection being all Imperial. I always really appreciate that type of stuff, as well as the play features of the belly of the beast being just amazing there, and the ability to just kind of drop off the whole thing and have it become a command center was great. The 2018 model, though, does present a worthy remake of the set. It definitely upgrades pretty much everything other than the figure selection, in my opinion, compared to that 2007 version. The added feature of the loading ramp for the set is a great one. The changing of the wing feature was definitely a welcome one, and one that kind of cleaned up the bottom back of the design that was otherwise pretty messy on the other one. It also obviously brings a much more accurate design. Not perfectly accurate, and that's hard to get in LEGO, but accurate enough compared to what you see in 2007. So they definitely made some huge changes, big leap there going from 2007 to 2018. Love the studded tiled look, definitely a nice combo. Perhaps the worst part of it though, the interior of the midsection, just don't like the way that looks at all. In my opinion, which set is better? I think it's obvious. The 2018 set is better. I mean, it just is. And the build is better. The figures are better done, although the figure selection is better on the 2007 model. Hopefully I've articulated that in a way that makes sense. But I love both models. I think they're both excellent, but I think that it's very clear that 2018 is definitely better. Let's check those final scores. And if you've been keeping track, you would know the final score is 4-1, with the 2018 model taking home the cake there. So yeah, I think that was the pretty obvious choice for the winner of this video. It just is the better model in a lot of ways. As much as your nostalgia goggles may make you think the 2007 one is better, it's factually not. It's been proven by this. So that's it for this comparison, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. I wish I could do a poll on screen to ask you guys which one was better, but YouTube has taken away that feature here in mid-2020. Very unfortunate, but life goes on. So I hope you guys enjoyed the comparisons. Nonetheless, still really cool sets, but rest in peace, polls.